Welcome to Lesson 8. Here we'll talk about another sequencing game. You see in the upper right here, it's from the December 2010 LSAT. And then after that, top 10 law school videos you can find on YouTube. Some of these are pretty funny. So let's jump into the game. We have 6 witnesses testifying at trial. So we have M, R, S, T, U, and W. And what are we told? Well, first rule, S testifies immediately before either T or U. Rule 1, S right before T or U. So I'll write it out this way. And the wording on this, immediately before either T or U, an either or rule. We saw something similar to that in game 5 where we had the skydivers. And there was a rule that said something along the lines of O, person's first name began with O, has to come before P, who has to come before L, or the reverse, L, P, O. When you see a rule like that, this is going to be a great candidate for creating 2 scenarios based on the 2 versions of that rule. So let me cross this out. Let me erase this. How about rule 2? U comes before R and W. We don't know the order of R and W. We just know that U has to come before them both. And as always, we'll combine the rules once we've written all of them down. But you can see real quick, U in rule 1, if you had an SU, it would have to be SU followed later by R and W. How about rule 3? Either T or W, so another either or rule. Either T or W immediately before M. So really, if this is M, right before it is T or W. And we know that both T and W mentioned in previous rules. And let's take note here. TWM. So TWM, and I should have done this rule by rule. Let's put little dots to see how many times they were mentioned. So rule 1, S, T mentioned again, U, and then U. So U mentioned twice, W, R. So 3 of the 6 letters came up in 2 of the rules. Now here's the question. How do we combine these? I mean, this is going to be a little more complicated than it's been in the past. S and then TU. So if we're U, then followed by RW, okay, that's pretty easy. But suppose it were an ST scenario. Well, then looking at rule 3, you could have STM or you could have ST, but then the W would appear somewhere after U, and where exactly does the M go? Once again, going to be very, very helpful to let's just start by creating 2 scenarios. This almost always helps. So we've got 6 slots, and placing these 6 items as we've said in a sequence. 4, 5, 6. This will be scenario 1, world 1. This will be scenario 2. And I'm going to divide these into, we've got our ST world and our SU world. So the ST block will be here. Second scenario, we have an SU block. All right, so we'll combine the rules here in the diagram, and I'll use a different color here. The second scenario, actually easier to draw out first. We have U followed by R and W. So that's 4 items. Who's left? M and T. In rule 3, I'm going to circle rule 3 and put an asterisk next to it. It seems like we're going to want to keep looking back and forth between the question, rule 3, the question, rule 3. In scenario 2, where do M and T go? Well, W could be followed by M. I'm not going to put the M in there, but it could be followed by M. Or the M, and why don't I write a circle around it, could appear somewhere else in the sequence as long as it were preceded by T. So I'll put a T in a circle as well, but again, we're just going to make a habit of coming back and looking at rule 3. And then how about writing out the rules in scenario 1? Well, so we've still got U before R and W. So that's 5 of our slots. And M, here again, M, I'll just write it and circle it. And we'll take note that M could come right after W, or it could come right after T, after the ST block. And that's our master diagram. I'm going to put a thick underline, not going to tamper with it. Now let me pause for a moment. Couple things. One is that, and I said this in an earlier video, you want to spend about 1/3 to 1/2 of the time in a particular game writing out the diagram. So in this case, a good goal for this game would be about 6 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes writing out the diagram, and then the remaining 3 to 4 minutes to handle the questions. And there are 5 questions in this game. Now the second point, you can see obviously I've written out just about everything here. After doing the 20 lessons, the 20 games, and then taking a couple of practice tests, you will very likely get to a point where you don't have to write out quite as much as I have. And maybe you don't now. And if you're someone who can visualize all of this without writing out quite as much, fantastic. Don't let me slow you down. But for the vast majority of people, it's a good idea to, over the course of the 20 lessons, writing out the rules a lot, not trying to picture everything in your head. And after you do that, many of you will get to a point where you don't have to write out quite as much. All right, question 19, acceptable situation question. So what do we do? As always, take a rule, see what we can eliminate, then the second rule, see what that can eliminate, and so forth. So rule 1, S has to be followed by either T or U. Take a quick look. A is okay, B is okay, C is okay, but D violates that rule. So we're going to cross out D. Why don't you pause for a moment, take the next rule, rule 2, see what you can eliminate, then rule 3. And notice, by the way, that rule 2, it's really 2 rules, right? U has to come before R and W. So that's just a little hint on that question. And then we'll come back and take a look. Okay, rule 2 gets rid of A and E. Rule 3 gets rid of C. Correct answer is B. Question 20, a could be true question. So we're going to have 4 choices that can't be true and 1 that could be true. If T is first, then which of the following could be true? So I'll write my 6 spaces down here. T first. This is question 20, so I'll mark that. We place T, so what do? We look at the rules on T. And T, it could be followed by M. So one possibility here is TM, or there's a second possibility where T is not followed by M. So T would be first. I'll write or here. Well, in that case, where would the M go? Take a look at our diagram. M would have to go, we said, after W. So let's fill in the 2 possible arrangements here. So arrangement 1, T followed by M. Then you look above, SU. That SU block is going to have to occupy 3 and 4. And then we're going to have R and W in 5 and 6. How about the second option? Now here, where does M go? If M doesn't go in slot 2, it goes where? We look above, it goes after W. So we're going to have SU is going to have to be slots 2 and 3. And then after that, we'll have a block here for W and M. And then R is going to go somewhere in there as well. With that in mind, why don't you pause for a moment, take a look at the choices, and then we'll come back and take a look at it. So this one, now that we've written out the 2 possibilities, pretty easy to get to the answer. Other than slot 1, every other slot can be occupied by a couple of different people. So, and let's take a look at who they can be. Answer A, could R be in the second slot? Nope. We can get rid of that quickly. B, C, D. Obviously, E is the correct choice. And if we want to write it down, let's do that. M in 6th. If we just want to be absolutely certain, W would come right before it. R would be in slot 4. So yes, answer E. Okay, question 21. Another question that gives us some details. So if S is 5th, then you must testify when. So it must be true question. If S is 5th, can we be in scenario 1, scenario 2, both of them? Got to be in scenario 1. In scenario 2, if S were 5th, U would be 6. There would be no room for R or W. Okay, so scenario 1, and we'll write this down. We're going to have the ST block in 5 and 6. What comes before that? Well, we can see the TWM rule. W will have to be followed by M. U has to be in the first slot. U has to be in the first slot. And then in between, we'll have this WM block. I know I don't have a lot of room to write here, but and then R will be down there somewhere. So this one pretty easy. Answer A. Okay, 2 more to go. Question 22. Which of the following pairs cannot testify third and fourth? So what? 4 of the choices are going to give you scenarios that would be okay, but one of them cannot work. So we'll just have to take a look at the choices one by one. MT. Could you have MT in slots 3 and 4? Well, in scenario 1, we know that T has to be preceded by S, can't be preceded by M. So scenario 1 is out, so we're in scenario 2 now. MT, would that work? Well, let's try it. MT, we just placed M and T, so let's look on the rules on M and T. Here again, rule 3. M has to follow either T or W, so in this case it would follow W. Okay, what do the rules say about W? We look at our master sketch. Well, it looks like W has to be preceded by S and U, and of course we don't have room here to do that, so we lucked out. Answer A. Okay, final question, question 23. Which of the following pairs cannot testify first and second? So again, we'll look through the choices one by one. Answer A, could you have S and U appear first and second? I mean, just in scenario 1, sure, you can absolutely have that. So that's out. A is out. Why don't you take a moment, pause, and go through the choices, and then we'll come back and take a look. Choice B, T and M. Would that be okay? Well, we're in scenario 2 here. TM followed by SURW. That one, very, very easy to eliminate. How about C? TS. Can you start with TS? Well, Of course, not in scenario 1, but in scenario 2, TS, you would then have the TSU block. Who goes in 4, 5, and 6? We've got R, we have W, we have M yet to place. Where would M go? Look at rule 3. M would go after W. So yeah, C would work. And then how about D? UT clearly cannot work in either scenario. First scenario, we have S and T. Second scenario, we have S and U. D, definitely our correct answer. So if you like this lesson, be sure to hit the like button below, share it with your friends. In the next video, we'll do another sequencing game. The next one has 3 scenarios. We're going to create not 2, but 3 broad scenarios. So stay tuned for that. The top 10 list today, just very, very quick. Top 10 law student videos you'll find on YouTube. So if you just go to YouTube, and all these links here, 1 through 5, and then there's another page, 6 through 10, are also posted in the comments section. So you can just go right there, look at the titles, look at the links. But a lot of these are really funny. So feel free to relax a little bit and enjoy some of those. Hope you can subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.